It's time to pick a side. The border war is on the air with BG and TanMan.
Gang, welcome into episode 129 of the Border War. I am the TanMan. I am not joined in the studio by BG today, but have no fear. Due to great technology in the year of 2019, BG joins us via a thing called the telephone. BG, are you there?
I am there. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you. I hope our listeners can hear you.
Why don't you let the listeners in on that little prank you played on me before the show started?
What, where I called and said that you had a civil judgment against you?
Yeah. When you called and said that I had a civil judgment against me from a cell phone number that I had never. You went and bought a phone just to play a trick on me.
Well, I buy many phones to play many tricks.
I was moderately nervous. I don't have multiple phones because one of my phones was stolen. It's still pending, I guess.
Well, I was going to say, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm sure that our local law enforcement is on top of it as we speak. They are hunting that phone down.
Well, it's been 4 years, so not holding out a lot of hope.
Well, sometimes that's all we have. I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Yeah. I'm used to that feeling.
Well, you are a Gamecock fan, a Redskins fan, so you should be used to it by now. We wanted to thank everyone who's tuned in last week and the weeks prior to that. We appreciate you listening. Of course, we're not going to go through the myriad of ways that you can listen, but whatever platform you prefer. If you can't find us, that is your fault. Emails, you can email the show at carolinaborderwar@gmail.com. We got several emails this past week. One of which Lisa from last week checked back in with us. She just said thank you. She was pretty angry last week, so we talked about some Redskins, and she just emailed back and said thank you. So Lisa,
you're welcome.
Yeah, you're very welcome. We're going to get right into it. We got a lot of emails. We're not going to read them all because they all kind of go about the same way, but a lot of emails on the Gamecocks newest edition. It is a name that Clemson Tiger fans should be very familiar with. Tavian Feaster. BG, you're the Gamecock man.
Yep.
What was your reaction when you heard Feaster was coming down to Columbia?
Well, it's good news. That's just the bottom line. And there's been a lot of noise back and forth about the fact that, he's transferring to a rival, and I don't know if it's because it's a skill position. He was a 5-star running back, the number 1 running back in the state. The year that Muschamp was hired, actually, I believe Muschamp actually sent Bobby Bentley to Spartanburg High School to talk to Tavian.
I remember that.
Sort of after it was way too late, but just sort of to let him know. And one wonders now if that might have paid off a little bit. But, with Josh Belk, who actually is completely out of football now, but, at the time, he was a high-ranked 4-star defensive lineman that transferred from Clemson to South Carolina, and I don't remember hearing any of this noise, like any of this controversy. So I'm not sure what it is about Tavian, if it was just he was higher-ranked than Josh Belk was, or if it's because he's a running back, or maybe it's because he's from Spartanburg, and that's where we are, that I'm just hearing it a lot more around here. But I've seen Clemson fans that aren't happy about it. I've seen Clemson fans that say, I'm not going to pull for the team, but good luck to them. I've seen Gamecock fans that aren't happy about it. And I've seen Gamecock fans like me who are just like, look, man, my biggest question mark about this team on both sides of the football, even as awful as our defense was last year, my key to the season was our running game. And yes, Rico Dowdle's a talented back, but he's never stayed healthy. And he, sometimes it looks like he doesn't really want to be down there. So yeah, man, I think it's big. I don't think it's game changing. I think it is exactly what our offense needed. It certainly isn't going to hurt. And having a little insight into Clemson's offense and the way their team runs things might not hurt either.
Yeah, a lot of the Clemson fans, you kind of gave me a lot to chew on there. So we'll start with the going back and forth between the two teams. I had completely forgotten that Josh Bell could quit football. I'll be honest, I completely forgot about that kid, and I think you're right. I think that's part of the reason why you didn't see this kind of Clemson outrage from that fan base when Belk went to South Carolina, because I think that they didn't expect a whole lot from him. To be honest, like he got down there, and I don't think he ever really.
Well, and he
didn't really love football,
as I recall, for some family medical issues.
Well, that's what he said.
So maybe that was a little less controversial too.
Maybe. But as far as the Clemson reaction to this, look, I've got my own opinions.
Let's be honest. This kid's a Clemson graduate.
Yeah.
He's not just a 1 or 2 year player here.
I've got my own opinions about the Clemson fan base, and obviously it's not everybody, but just as a general blanket statement, and I will keep that to myself. But a friend of mine sent me a screenshot of a message board, and you can probably figure out which one it is, but I think that this is a lot more prevalent from that side than not. He goes on, he said he's just another kid, all about himself. He'll never make it very long in the NFL. He goes on.
That's been on Twitter, too. Oh,
yeah, he's ashamed of him. He never lived up to the hype. I hope his season is a bust. Yeah, if you're a Tiger forever. You can't walk away, yada, yada. To that guy and the local radio host around here.
Oh, dear God.
I just said, come on, man. Come on. The world is smaller. Kids transfer now for any number of reasons. We were
talking about before the show started. I mean, I think there's a lot of animosity between these two fan bases, obviously. And I think, and I don't mean to be classist or whatever you want to say, but a lot of that animosity is between fans that did not attend either of the schools of which they are fans.
Yeah.
And it tends to only revolve around football. I saw a really good tweet, and it was from someone I don't follow, and I don't recall it being a real sports-oriented person, but it was an African American lady, I assume, who's affiliated somehow with USC, and she just tweeted out, "Does this apply to athletic directors? Because that's sure where Dan Radakovich came from. Does it apply to Brad Scott? Does it apply to professors? Does it apply to students who go to undergraduate at Clemson and realize that they want to be lawyers, and of course can't get a law degree anywhere but in South Carolina? Of course it doesn't.
No.
So what is this? There is no standard, and that's where you get into this idea that everything 90% of the people in this state know about and care about when it comes to those two schools are their football teams. And it's like a sickness. But there you are.
Well,
there you are.
I'm not I wouldn't classify myself as a South Carolina fan. I would say that I live in South Carolina, and so you kind of
you're closer to being a South Carolina
fan. Right? Yeah,
you kind of
have to, for lack of a better term, pick a side if you live in this state. And so, if I'm going to lean in a direction, I would lean towards South Carolina.
And I think it's important for us to be honest about that. The way I've always thought about you is that you wished South Carolina had earned a little bit more of your fandom, and they just haven't. You would like to be more of a South Carolina fan than you are, but
And look, I like winners. I like the Tar Heels. And I guess that's about it. None of my other teams really win much.
You like Nebraska.
I liked Nebraska in the mid-'90s.
I don't know where that came from.
But back to Feaster. You talked a little bit about how you thought he was going to impact the team. I think you're dead on. If there's a weak spot, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that running back is the position holding that offense back. I'm with you. I like Rico Dowdle. he's not really on the field that much. It seems like he's banged up as much as he is.
Yeah, no question.
You've got
and I think one of the added benefits to this is no matter what impact Tavian has, and I'm sure we'll talk numbers here in a second, kind of predicting how he's going to impact this team, but if it does nothing but light a fire under Dowdle's butt, I'm good with that, too. It's not like we had the roster spot filled with someone else who was going to contribute.
No, and that's what I was going to say. I talked to somebody. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. We were talking about the Feaster news, and it was kind of starting to leak like he might be headed down there. And my buddy said he named off the running back room. I think Mondence and I, him. I don't go through this, but he named off all the running backs. He goes, it's just kind of a crowded room. I don't know where his carries from. And I looked at him. I said, "Who?
Are you out of your mind?
Who are you? Are you kidding me? Like I don't think I saw Tavian in high school just like you did and everybody else around here did, and just my opinion, like I never thought that he was gonna be. I never thought he was gonna be the boss when he went to Clemson. Like he kind of stayed banged up, a little nagging things throughout his high school career. He gets down to Clemson. He didn't
have great size coming out of high school.
No, and he gets down to Clemson, and he's immediately.
Kev, who's a bigger Clemson fan as you can find. I mean, he's been saying for 3 years that Clemson did not use him correctly.
Well, that's exactly what I said.
Catching passes out of the backfield, that he's got good hands, that he wasn't a between the tackles kind of runner, and that they just never found a good way to use him. And of course, who knows what would have happened with Tavian if Travis Etienne hadn't shown up?
Well, and
because that definitely was not part of the plan. Etienne was not supposed to be a top 10 in the country kind of player.
Well, no,
he was barely recruited.
That's always been my stance with him is why did he stay down there for so long? And I've said it on the air before. As soon as he got down there, he got passed on the depth chart. Now, I don't have the recruiting rankings in front of me. I don't remember exactly what Travis Etienne was when he came to Clemson, but it was pretty obvious from the get-go, like as soon as the Clemson coaches saw this guy and got this guy on the field, that they were hitching their wagon to that kid. And Tavian Feaster had automatically, before he ever played a snap, basically been recruited over. So I think this is a great move for him. The running back room, listen, it's crowded with bodies. It's not crowded with talent at South Carolina. I've never been a huge Feaster guy. I do question his durability a little bit. He was banged up, like I said, banged up a lot in high school. Some of it little nagging stuff.
Just to quickly answer your
nothing
question.
Too serious. But it's also been 3 years since he's been like the featured guy. He's just kind of been getting little sprinkles of action here or there. I'm interested to see when he gets a lot more carries, how he handles that extra workload.
Etienne was the 26th best running back in the nation in 2017 coming out. He was a 3-star recruit.
Wow. And
only the 16th best in the state. And Clemson was the only school that he showed any interest in at all. By comparison, Tavian Feaster was the second best running back in the country, according to Rivals, and he was a 5-star recruit.
Just goes to show you that the people who attach those stars to these kids when they're 16 and 17 years old do not know everything. Because the minute Etienne stepped up down there, he was a monster.
5-star players do not wash out like that. But again,
well, I wouldn't call
Feaster. If
Feaster
hadn't been a complete and total, because Feaster is, I think I read, second in school history at Clemson in yards per touch.
It just wasn't enough touches to go around.
Things in football. What's that?
I said there just weren't enough touches to go around down there. Not when you have Etienne doing his thing.
You got a lot of guys at Clemson that didn't touch the ball very much, and we talked about it, especially 2 years ago, when Kelly Bryant was handling the ball 70% of the time. We were both really confused by why they weren't using Feaster, and really at that point weren't using Etienne. I mean, they weren't. Kelly Bryant was doing everything. He was running the ball about 60% of their snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember on the show both of us being really confused, and I remember we talked off the air, and I told you, I was like, I don't think Feaster will stick around after this year. And I had no idea he would transfer to South Carolina, but I thought he would leave. But he didn't. And I suppose you could just make the argument that he liked the place, he liked it as a school, he liked his team, and maybe he liked winning national titles.
Well,
that's what I would point out if I were a Clemson fan. But now that he's got
down
two
there,
rings,
if he liked being down there and he liked the school and the culture, that's okay. But if he really wanted to play, like he should have been gone.
He should have. But now that he's got one season. He's got one season. I mean, you could have, would have, should have, but he's going to have plenty of opportunity to show himself to NFL scouts if that's what he actually is. Now, I do have some questions about how quickly he's going to learn the offense because it's a pretty high play count offense with a lot of audibles. But I mean, I have no doubt you'll see him on special teams. And I just have a feeling that he wouldn't have gone to South Carolina if Brian McClendon and Will Muschamp hadn't said to him basically, "Yeah, we're going to use you."
See,
because that's exclusively what he was looking for.
Yeah, see,
I mean, let's get this straight. He didn't want to go to South Carolina either. Can we just say that? I mean, like, he doesn't really want to be down there. He's trying to get himself into the league and get some quality touches. And this was the team that was interested, that was nearby, that he thought gave him the best chance of getting his hands on the football.
Well,
and that's all it is.
Well, he said afterwards, I'm a Clemson Tiger. I'll always be a Clemson Tiger. So I think you're probably right. South Carolina is more of a means to an end than some sort of internal love affair with him. I disagree with you about the Willie struggle picking up the offense. I don't think so. I think when it comes to
I don't really mean struggle so much as he just has no time.
I don't think you're like in the North Carolina game. You might see him. You might see him whiff on a block or once or twice, but by the second or third game,
we won't even need him in that game.
Probably not. You'll probably beat poor North Carolina 74-2. I don't really even know why they're playing the game.
I was thinking 64-2. I think you're making it a little bit too one-sided.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm just happy we even still have a football team. I'm just tickled pink that we're even still allowed to play this old football game. But no, I think Feaster, right from the jump, is gonna integrate himself into the offense just fine. Like, I don't think you're gonna see any kind of struggles as far as that goes.
Because they sure need him. They sure need him.
I know the expectations for this are super high from several of the Gamecock fans that I know that I've talked to. They are all in on the to steal the Dabo's term, on the move for Feaster. And I don't know if everybody is, obviously people I talk to are from around here. I don't know if everybody is so hyped on this move because they feel like they feel like this kid is going to make that big of a difference in the offense, or is it a little bit of the hometown kid, the local boy, doing his thing, transferring schools? Is it more wanting it for him because he's from Spartanburg, he's from around here, or is it
frustration even among Clemson fans from Spartanburg that Tavian hasn't gotten a lot of looks over the past 3 seasons? So I think that some of it is just hope that he will.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm interested to see. I hope the kid. I hope he goes down there and does fantastic, because I'm really interested. I have a hard time thinking that if he, if whatever, I don't know the entire reason why he was only getting 3-4 touches. We looked it up one day, and it seemed like every week he was getting 3 or 4 touches. Like, the kid can, I would think that the kid can give you more than that. He can contribute in a bigger way than that. So, is there something that we're not seeing? Is there something behind the scenes that he's not picking up? I don't know. I think this move comes with it's a low risk from South Carolina's perspective, because, as you said, he's only going to be here a year. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and he's going to be somewhere else next year regardless. But if it does, it's a potential game changer, and I think that's where I'll leave it. It's a potential game changer. I don't know that it will be, but it it could be.
One sort of interesting kink in the story that we're not talking about, I saw a couple of people ask on Gamecock message boards, like, well, we do the same thing that Clemson does, right? We had 5 or 6 running backs touching the ball last season. Well, a couple of things. One, Tyson Williams is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Transferred again. So you've got Dowdle and Mon Denson, basically. And the fact that Mon Denson, God bless him, I mean, he's like an army ant. I mean, he fights and fights and fights, but he's 5'9", like 165 pounds. Dowdle should have been the featured back. The fact that Mon Denson was getting carries last year, it speaks to our lack of depth at that position and Dowdle's lack of effort, in my opinion. But let's remember, too, that Bobby Bentley was the running back coach last season. That is not the case anymore.
No.
Thomas Brown from the University of Georgia was hired in the offseason as the running back coach, and I distinctly remember watching his press conference, and he said in no uncertain terms, I'm not a fan of the running back by committee. I want to find my horse and ride. That is exactly what he said. And if you don't think that Tavian heard that and thinks, that's going to be me, I fully expect in his mind he's planning on going down there and carrying the ball 20 times a game.
See, when I hear workhorse, I'm thinking, when I hear workhorse, I picture Marcus Lattimore toting it 35 times a game. That is not. I have a hard time believing that's going to be Tavian Feaster.
Well, that hasn't been anybody other than Marcus Lattimore.
Well, I think 20 carries a game is too much.
No, I'm not saying that's going to happen. Well, I'll put it this way. It's going to have a lot to do with what happens when he gets those first 10 carries.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's getting consistent yardage and he's giving Jake Bentley the one thing Jake Bentley has not had, that is a consistent running game, then I think you can expect to see him on the field a lot.
See, I know.
But if he's not
going.
then
he's not going down there to sit on the bench. He's going to be on the field a lot. I just think that Feaster is going to be used as I don't want to say a jack of all trades, but they're going to move him around. Like every play, the defense is going to have to look around and find out where he is and account for where he is.
I think you're right.
And I think as far as I think lining up in the backfield at the end of the season, I wouldn't be shocked if Dowdle has more carries or if they are somewhat in the same ballpark. But I think South Carolina is going to use Feaster, like Clemson Kev said. They're going to use him a lot more on offense than what Clemson was. But like I said, as far as just lining up behind the offensive line and running the ball, I don't see Feaster outpacing anybody. I think that is still going to be a timeshare. That's just my opinion.
Well, I'm just going by what the running back coach said, and again, it may not even be 100% his call. But you're right. I mean,
well, I don't care what the running back coach said.
Speed.
I don't care what the running back coach said. That's what I say.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see why.
That's why I'm here and he's there.
Yeah. I mean, just having Feaster lined up at wide out anywhere on the field, I mean, the defense is going to have to pay attention to him. He runs a 4.29 40-yard dash. I mean,
no, this is definitely a new toy. They're going to be able to run reverses with this kid. They're going to get him out in space. They're going to throw swing passes. I mean, this could be like I said, this could be a big time deal for South Carolina.
And you feel like he's got every reason to try his best. I mean, he really needs to sell himself because there are a lot of questions about him from the NFL standpoint. His size, his usefulness, what position he'll play. And so, like, you may be right. We may be overestimating the amount of snaps, the number of snaps he even plays at running back at all. For all we know, he's fine playing wide receiver 50% of the time because maybe he's got it in his head that's what is going to work for him in the league.
Maybe. There's
plenty of guys doing it.
I'd say, what are we, I guess right at a month away now?
Yeah.
Listen, things just got a lot more interesting.
Camp opens in just a couple of days. I mean, I think maybe Monday is the 5th. I mean, they may be practicing by then.
Maybe. I'm not exactly sure. I think I saw somewhere where somebody said, somebody said Wofford opened up like right towards the end of Panthers camp. I was talking about how they were their practice schedule. So you're probably right. They're probably going to be strapping it up here pretty soon. Speaking of pretty soon, I guess this time tomorrow, the Major League Baseball trade deadline I'm assuming it will have come and gone. So we should be within that 24-hour window. So BG, the Atlanta Braves, they're one of the teams, it seems like many, who are in dire need of some bullpen help, particularly at the closer spot. But so far, you look around, you do a little digging. Obviously, we're not on the inside like someone like Bill Shanks is, but it's hard to find a lot of information, or it's hard to find a lot of stuff where it seems like the Braves are being tied to.
Barely even mention the Braves anymore.
No, they're not really in the mix for any of these guys, it doesn't seem like.
The only two names I could find in more than 2 articles this morning when I was looking were Felipe Vasquez from the Pirates and Edwin Diaz from the Mets, and neither of them having big number seasons, but apparently there's a lot of demand for both of them just because closer and late reliever is such a hard to find position. But as far as the Madison Bumgarners of the world, I don't see the Braves name even coming up. In fact, the general consensus on him right now seems to be
he's going to stay.
A lot of people think he's just going to stay in San Francisco.
Yeah, you mentioned the gentleman from Pittsburgh. I've seen his name out there too, but they say he's got a pretty team-friendly deal for like the next 5 or 6 years. I think it's going to take a lot to pry him away from the Pirates. I don't see him getting moved. Edwin Diaz, they say the Dodgers are the favorites to land him. If they land Diaz, you can probably wrap the National League up for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I would think so.
Some other names out there, you see Ken Giles from Toronto. He just had a check on his elbow. No structural damage, but you got to wonder what teams are really gonna give up for him with the questions about those elbows, or questions about his elbow. So I'm with you, man. I'm starting to have a feeling like whatever this team is right now, this time tomorrow, this is going to be their team as they make a playoff push.
And you've seen some quotes from Snitker here recently that make me think that's a distinct possibility. He's sort of starting to say things like that, like if this is the team we've got, we're going to be fine. We feel like we can win with this team. And to be fair, they have won with this team. But I think a lot of people are really looking at the Dodgers, as you should be, and comparing the Braves to the Dodgers, looking at their win-loss records, looking at their measurables, and then, frankly, looking at what happened in the postseason last year, where the Dodgers beat the Braves, in 4 games by an aggregate score of, I think it was 20-4. So the Braves have a lot of ground to make up to catch the Dodgers, and like you said, if they get Diaz,
that's probably
and the Braves get nobody, then you're not catching them. You're losing ground on them, and that's not where you want to be if you're a Braves fan.
Actually, my take on this team right now, as we sit here with a trade deadline around the corner, I think this team, if they do nothing, if they do nothing more, let's even say they just kind of bring in another bullpen arm, not a closer, but just a guy to kind of bolster the bullpen a little bit. I think this team could win a division series with exactly what they have right now. I don't think that they're good enough to beat the Dodgers in 7 games. Now the question they have to answer is there a deal out there that puts you ahead of the Dodgers? And if it is, going in, it's going to cost you some of these prospects, some of these top prospects in your minor league system. If you feel like it puts you ahead of the Dodgers now, then maybe you do it. But the caveat in that to me is if you've identified which one of these guys in your minor leagues is going to be, because obviously they're not all going to make your ball club down the road. They're not all these arms are not going to be in your rotation. If you've identified the ones that that will be, then I think you can kind of work around it and make a move. But if you're still kind of on the fence, if you're still not sure which one of these guys is going to be your guy or your couple guys going forward, don't make the move, man, because there is nothing worse. As a fan, to me, there's nothing worse than watching a guy, particularly a pitcher, because Atlanta has, Adam Wainwright is a great example, that you trade away for a guy at a trade deadline trying to make a short-term run, and then watch the kid you traded away when he was 20, 21 years old just dominate hitters for the next 8-10 years. To me, that is a terrible, terrible deal. So if you're not sure which one of those guys that you want to keep and you're still on the fence about them, keep them all right now. Don't trade any of them.
Yeah, no, especially at pitcher, because it just seems to be a very, very difficult position for scouts or anyone else to accurately predict. And you're right, you're not going to hit on them all.
No.
So, it's sort of like if you're trying to catch a fish, would you rather have 5 lines in the water or just one? And I think the answer is pretty easy. Yeah. So I'm with you. Certainly don't mortgage your future for a present that's still probably not going to work out.
Right. No.
Right.
Don't. Anthropoulos has said, look, we're trying to win multiple World Series here. Yeah. You make a move.
Well, it reminds me a little of our discussion about Jay Gruden and Dwayne Haskins last week with the Redskins. You sort of wonder where Snitker's mind is. Now, at his age, it's completely different from Gruden, but Snitker hasn't really been given that huge vote of confidence by the ownership, right?
Right.
I mean, he isn't, and so you wonder where his mind is. Should I go for it and try to win? Because otherwise, man, forget the future of this franchise. But as long as he's been with the Braves, I feel like he's still interested in the long-term health of that organization, one way or the other.
Yeah, and I've kind of gotten the feeling that we're kind of past the whole, is Brian Snitker going to keep his job? Is he going to stick around? I feel like Snit's the manager for the foreseeable future in Atlanta. I don't see him
I think you're probably
going
right.
anywhere.
I think you're probably right.
As you head to the playoffs, like you mentioned Madison Bumgarner, Mike Minor's a name that some Braves fans have brought up. Again, bringing these guys in if they're available, and I'm not sure Bumgarner is anymore. The Giants have gone on a run, but if if they're not available, you're going into a playoff rotation with Soroka, Teran, Keuchel, and then Max Fried as your 4th guy. Look, I think that there's a lot worse places you can be, as a pitching staff than having those top 3, those first 3 guys in a playoff series. Teran's been really good at home. Keuchel has been through the wars. He's a World Series champion. He's a former Cy Young winner. And, of course, Soroka looks like he's going to be your dude for the next handful of years. So I think I've got no problem if Atlanta doesn't make a move for a starting pitcher. Obviously, the closer situation, you'd love to have that addressed. But, again, I don't know that there's a guy out there that's available without digging deep into that farm system. So I think Braves fans need to start kind of wrapping their head around the fact that, look, Luke Jackson, he's got 7 blown saves. He's probably going to be your closer for the rest of the season. I just have a hard time seeing that change. On the offensive front, some Braves fans, some Braves insiders have openly discussed whether or not it's time to go get a bat. Again, same deal applies with the arms. You got Nick Markakis out. The word on his wrist injury, I haven't seen anything to talk about how serious it is. It's still kind of up in the air right now. He has been about as steady as you can be, over the last 14. I saw a stat today. How many players have at least 100 hits in each of the last 14 seasons? You know how long that list is?
I would think extremely short.
Very. It's one. It's Nick Markakis.
Okay.
It's almost non-existent if not for that guy. So losing him is a big blow. And then you start going down that list. This outfield that before the season we talked about, we all felt really good about, now has gotten a lot of it's gotten a lot of questions. Austin Riley has gone from red hot to ice cold. He hit 226 in June, down to 159 in July. Maybe whether or not he even sticks up in the major leagues for the rest of the year, I don't know that going down to the minors isn't the best move for him at this point. But you got Charlie Culberson, Matt Joyce. Look, those guys have just been mostly pinch hitters. They've only gotten multiple at-bats a handful of times throughout the year. And you've got Ender Inciarte, who has, I think he struggled with a back injury. I think it's been all season long because his numbers to start the year were atrocious before he missed those 2 months. So like I said, a lot of question marks in the outfield for Atlanta. And again, I think that was a position that going into the year, I felt like you felt pretty strongly about that. So again, I don't know when you couple that with the fact that you're probably not going to get like, I don't know that even a bat or an arm or any combination, I don't know that any of those moves get you past the Dodgers if you're if Markakis is out for the rest of the year, because he's one of your big 4 or 5.
Yeah, it seems like you said more and more likely that he's not coming back, and for this season, and his age certainly comes into play with all that as well. I guess the good news is it looked. I mean, I was watching when Dansby got hurt, and it looked bad when he went off the field. But I think he's just going to be back out for the mandatory 10 days or whatever it is, and then he should be back. But again, and we talked about it a long time ago. I mean, I think with this Braves team, you're not just talking about the season. Just look at the average age of these kids. The Dodgers are peaked.
It's time. Like they've got to win a World Series quickly, or that window is going to be slim.
I said there's a lot. I would rather. This sounds crazy, man, but I really would rather have the Braves roster right now than the Dodgers roster, because the Dodgers roster hasn't shown me they can do anything other than win a lot of regular season games and dominate the National League. Until they win it, and even if they just win one, that's going to be look at the number of baseball games they've won in the past 5 seasons. I mean, that's going to end up being a little bit of a disappointment. So one is almost like mandatory.
Well, look, that's the same boat Atlanta found themselves in all those years. I think the Dodgers have won the National League West, 7 or 8 years going now. They're going to win it again this year. And so far, they've got no ring to show for it. If they get one, then, and like you said, at some point down the road, we're going to look back at them and wonder how they didn't come up with 2, 3 more to tack on to that.
Sure. And I don't even think, I think it's probably the case that the Braves are going to win the East, but the Nationals are not really out of this, especially considering Atlanta's difficulty with that franchise. I don't know where it comes from. Looked bad against them last night. The Braves do take 2 of 3 from Philadelphia, but the Nationals just have, even when they were the Expos, there's something about that franchise that gives the Atlanta Braves issues. But what are they, 4.5 games out? All the betting lines and statistical analyses and whatnot, and you look at the schedules of both teams remaining, I think a lot of places have the Braves having like a 78-79% chance of winning that division and a 90-something% chance of going to the playoffs. But I just don't think this Atlanta team is quite there yet. And in that regard, I guess you're a little less concerned about Markakis, because again, you're right.
I say, if you have Markakis, are you beating the Dodgers with him? Are you beating LA with Nick Markakis?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Probably not.
I just don't think so.
No, I think for Atlanta, like the window's open. Like something happens, they get a couple breaks. Like they could. I think the window's kind of cracked right now. I'm not dealing any of these young guys because I don't, just to open the window real fast right now. I would rather have the window open a little bit more and a little bit more each year than have it shut on me prematurely and have somebody that I had and dealt away win a World Series for somebody else 7 or 8 years down the road.
It's just 2 years in a row this team has outperformed expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember we talked before the season started, and I think I had them winning about 90 games or maybe 85 games, and I think you thought they were going to take a step back.
I thought they would kind of come back a little bit. I didn't have them 10 games under 500 at June 1st like you did.
Well, yeah, I flipped around real quick there once I saw those bullpen woes early, but I knew you weren't going to let me take full credit for being right about something. But either way, I don't think either one of us saw them sort of just running away with the division, especially the way they looked going into the All-Star break. They have cooled off a little since then, and I did sort of worry about that on the show because it just seems like every team sort of stops what they had going on in the middle of July for the end of July. Like that All-Star break affects people. One would like to think they're going to win that division, and it would be nice to see them get a favorable matchup sort of in the first round of the playoffs and maybe see them win a 5-game series and I don't even know. When's the last time the Braves won a playoff series? It has not been recent.
I would say 2001 when they lost in the NLCS to Arizona. Because I know after that they went, because they used to never lose the division series. They would always win the division series.
Right.
And they got there, ran up against that Randy Johnson, Kurt Schilling deal, and then after that, they started losing division series. I know they lost to the Giants, they lost to the Cubs, they started losing the division series, and I don't think they've been back to the NLCS
the last
since
time they won was the divisional series in 2001 against the Astros. They won it 3-0. That's the last time they've won a series.
Dang, I'm good.
My child was born that year, and he's about to graduate from high school.
I just say 2000. That's the year I graduated from high school. It's amazing.
That's the year I started teaching high school.
And so just think though, all those years, like basically all through my childhood, Atlanta went to the playoffs. They won the division. Yeah, they went to at the very least went to the NLCS, and then now we're knocking on the door to 18 years since they've been to a championship series.
That would definitely
unreal.
Be a massive step forward psychologically.
Absolutely.
And I think that has to be the goal.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That is it for the episode of number 129. You can follow us on Twitter at The Border War. He is at BG_Border War. I am at Tar Heel TanMan. We are on Facebook. Just give us a search. We're there. You can email the show again, CarolinaBorderWar@gmail.com. Those emails have been picking up the last few weeks, so keep it up, guys. And hopefully we will see you next week, I assume. Maybe? I don't know.
Who's talking to me?
I'm just talking in general. As long as they, we might get kicked off the air by then. I don't know.
I don't think anybody has the power to do that but us. Anyway, if I'm not being